Hi, I'm Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet, and today we're going to talk about Tibalt's counterspell. A spell that's got people talking because seeing red get counter magic is unusual, so it's going to get lips are flapping and gums are tapping. Red having access to counter magic might not be as weird as you think it is. They don't regularly get it, but historically they have had access to it from time to time, on rare occasion. Historically they have access to spells that hurt the colours they call enemies, blue and to a lesser extent white. From Burnout to Red Elemental Blast, and more recently in Modern Frame and Modern Format, Guttural Response, a card that also gave access to counter magic to green. What we see with Guttural Response and these spells that fight back against the blue-based permission is the sort of back and forth between the two colours, between the two philosophies, where blue is about rule setting and rationale and logic, red is more about in the moment, the guttural response to something. In many ways it's why I've always said that Force of Will feels quite red, because you aren't stopping a spell through knowing better around the arcane arts or being well learned. Even the original art is kind of red in how it feels. It's about through the sheer volition of Force of Will, you stop a spell. Of course, since got a response, green has got access to Veil of Sun, which is basically a 1-mana cryptic command anyway. But the less I talk about that here now, the better, because I've complained about it in the past, and the card drives me fucking mad. Red has also had some weird fringe stuff. Like I said, there's not a huge amount of cards that have a counter-target spell written on them in red. It's literally less than 10. There is an example of counter this unless you take damage, which is so bad it's fucking painful, if you excuse the pun. There's also counter this after we've done a bidding war with life, which is hilarious. And I've played this in a Commander Clash deck before. I never got to cast it, but it was in the deck list. And finally, we have this that I only learned about for this video: counter-target artifact, because, well, red is the colour that cares about artifacts. I also like how weirdly abstract this art is. I assume there's a painting of eyes, but I would like to think they're magical eyes and some sort of plate filled with eyes. But here we are in Kaldheim, where white's not getting anything fresh or new and blue's getting to exile artifacts, and people are like, huh, red has counter magic now? Well, yes and no. Tibalt's Trickery is evidently a counterspell. It literally says on it, counter target spell. I'm going to go through what it does quickly so we're all on the same page, and then I'm going to talk about why, in essence, it isn't actually really a counterspell. It's something a little bit different. Tibalt's Trickery is 1 red and 1 generic mana for an instant. It's a rare from the new set Kaldheim. It counters target spell full stop, and then there's a shit ton of other text. Choose the number 1, 2, or 3 at random. Its controller mills that many cards. This line of text is here to stop the rest of it being a very consistent combo where you brainstorm a powerful effect on top of your library and sort of like reality warp into it. Once you've done the milling, you exile cards on top of your library until you exile a non-land card with a different name than that spell, the spell that was counted. They may cast that card without paying its mana cost, then they put the exiled card on the bottom of the library in a random order. So in short, the mill clause is there so you don't just go brainstorm, put Emrakul on top of your library, cast another brainstorm, counter it with a Tibalt's Trickery, and Bob's your uncle, fun as you are, there's an Emrakul being cast. That said, in spite of the mill meaning it's difficult to set it up with things like Brainstorm, I do think that's more what this card will be. It will be some sort of combo engine, some sort of combo piece to allow people to target their own spells and hit fatties. It doesn't literally, like, 1-for-1 your opponent. Counterspell itself is you pay 2 blue mana and you counter the opponent's spell or whatever, and you've spent 1 card, they've spent 1 card, and that card is gone, and then you move on to the next part of the game. Counterspell is traditionally very, very good, as has other 2 mana counterspells like Mana Leak and, of course, Mana Drain and such, because you're spending only 2 mana, so you can get rid of a 10 mana threat with it. Tibalt's Trickery gives your opponent a chance to hit something else. That could be their own counter magic, which means it does nothing, or it could be hitting, I don't know, another planeswalker or creature or whatever. The interesting thing is it can hit both of you. So for that reason, I think it's better to compare it to a one-shot of Possibility Storm, although it's worded slightly differently. It doesn't hit the same permanent or card type or whatever, which means it's less consistent in terms of like combo enabling, but it's more akin to a one-shot Possibility Storm, or perhaps a counterspell variant of Chaos Warp. The owner shuffles target permanent into their library and then reveals the top card of the library, and if it's a permanent they put it into the battlefield. I mean, Chaos Warp's got an upside of it can hit things that aren't permanent and therefore it doesn't do anything. It can just be a 3 mana shuffle target thing into a library full stop. it's got upsides. But I think Tibalt's Trickery is more comparable to these two than any actual factual counter magic. It isn't a counterspell in the sense of a 1-for-1 stop your thing on the stack. It's only unique compared to, say, Chaos Warp because it interacts with the stack. This means that people casting creatures and such that have ETBs and the battlefield effects won't get those effects if you Trickery them away. So it has a slightly different application and it's unique, but I don't think it's really colour pie warping or anything we haven't seen Red kind of do before. It's kind of mixing two things together to get some sort of elaborate, weird Chaos Warp. And whilst I think it is more comparable to Possibility Storm and Chaos Warp than a straight up counterspell, I think in terms of its application or where it might see any form of play, it's probably more comparable to Madcap Experiment or Indomitable Creativity, cards that allow you to get rid of a certain permanent or certain thing and then go looking for a new one in your deck, or Madcap just looks for a new one in your deck. It'll be a combo piece, a combo payoff. The problem is, with Madcap you can just play certain things and always hit them like Empyreans and Platinum Angels. And with Creativity, you can play a load of other permanents that aren't artifacts, and when you destroy your artifacts, you go and get artifacts out of your deck. My point is, Trickery isn't as consistent as that. So really, outside of like tier 2, tier 3 memes against the odd decks or stuff my patrons force me to play, I don't think Trickery is going to be that good. I do want to say that I kind of wish Trickery was double red, just so it like played more on like pointing at counterspell and being like, here's Red's version of it. And the art is phenomenal. This Tibal't with like pandemonium behind him. He appears to be in chains, but the chains aren't necessarily keeping him in chain. I wonder if, we haven't got the story moment yet, but I wonder if this is comparable to the Joker in The Dark Knight being captured on purpose. Oh, I say on purpose. Being captured and it not actually affecting his plans in any way and having some way to get out of jail free because he's thought ahead. I don't want to compare Tibal't to the Joker too much because the Joker is a character that I kind of hate bringing up too much, but that was kind of the motif or the plot point that I was thinking of. Like, he may have been captured, but he still has the upper hand because he's such a bastard. So that's Tibalt's Trickery. It's not actually a counterspell. It's more of a combo piece or kind of pseudo removal. I think it'll be a lot of fun in Commander. It might see some fringe play in some weird decks, but on the whole, I don't think it's going to make much of a splash, but I'm glad it exists. I've been Vince, also PleasantKenobi on the internet. Check out some gameplay coming up on the channel today. I'll have my spoiler preview tomorrow. If you're watching this thinking, where the fuck's Warhammer Wednesday? Don't worry, that'll be back ongoing. Just that this week is Kaldheim spoiler season, so I can't let up talking about the new cards because they're A, exciting, and B, that's what people want. And I'm going to give the people what they want. If you like the video, hit the like button, don't forget to subscribe, drop a comment down below because it helps YouTube. Tell YouTube how beautiful my beard is. I want to see a lot of beard comments on. And until next time, ta-ta for now.